First off, thank you and welcome everybody to this ADCET webinar this afternoon and for joining us for this presentation on this vendor demonstration of Lernabl. My name is Darren Britton and I am the National Assistive Technology Project Officer with the Australian Disability Clearinghouse on Education and Training, that is ADCET for short. I'm a white male in my mid-50s, say mid-50s, getting to mid-50s, with very much white, greying blonde hair and a beard, and wearing blue rimmed glasses. I'm also wearing a white hooded top today, as it's very cold here in Melbourne, in Victoria. Just to let you know, this webinar is being live captioned and recorded. To activate the captions, please select the CC button in the toolbar that may either be located at the top or the bottom of your screen. And we also have captions available via a browser if you prefer to follow along there, and that the link to that will be added to the chat box now. Excuse me. ADCET is hosted on Lutruwita land, that is Tasmanian Aboriginal land, and in the spirit of reconciliation, ADCET respectfully acknowledges the Lutruwita nations and also recognises the Aboriginal history and culture of the land, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and to the many Aboriginal people that did not make elder status. I am joining you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation in Victoria, and I would also like to recognise all other countries and lands from participants in this meeting and acknowledge their elders and ancestors and their legacy to us and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. Today's webinar, Prepare for Exams Your Way with Lernabl, is a vendor demonstration presented by Sam Cock. Developed in response to students' demands for more personalised and diverse study methods, Lernabl provides a comprehensive and holistic solution for the entire revision process. This presentation will introduce the software, and Sam will provide a demonstration of its key features. Before we begin, just a couple more housekeeping details. A reminder that this webinar is being recorded. So if you want to keep your camera off, you make sure that you're not visible during recording, please do so. And the recording will be made available on ADCET in the coming days. Also, thank you to Sharon from Bradley Reporting, who is live captioning today's session. If you have any technical difficulties, please email admin@adcet.edu.au. So that's admin@adcet.edu.au, and we'll try and get things sorted for you. The presentation today will run for around 40 to 45 minutes, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. Throughout the presentation, please feel free to use the chat box with us and with each other, but please remember to choose everybody who you're chatting to so that everyone can read what you have to say. Sam is happy to answer questions, as I said, at the end, and if you have a question that you would like asked, please put that into the Q&A box rather than into the chat box so it doesn't get lost. Also, please feel free to use the reactions emojis during the presentation if you see fit, as this is a great way to pass on your reaction to the presenter, who can often not see the chat or the expressions of participants while they're presenting. With that being said, thank you, and over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you very much for introducing me there, and thank you to everybody at ADCET for inviting me along for this demonstration. Hello, everybody. I am Sam Cock. I am 36. I had to think about that for a second. White male with slightly receding brown hair and a bit of a stubbly beard on the go. Not as well kept as Darren's. I'm definitely jealous of that. But that is me. I am just a little bit of an introduction to myself. I've been working in assistive technology for 12 years or so. Previously used to be an assistive technology trainer, training. I also might need to mention at the beginning, I am from the UK. I'm coming from the UK based today in a town called Stafford in Staffordshire, which is kind of just outside north of Birmingham. South of Manchester is my easiest way to describe it. As it seems to be very cold for a few of you guys today, but it's actually quite warm in here, which is why I'm the one in the t-shirt today. As I said before, I've been working in assistive technology for I think around 12 years now. I am now currently the solutions expert for Lernabl, which is the project that we're about to look at today for this demonstration. But my previous experience in assistive technology has been in assistive technology training over various different pieces of assistive technology, assisting students at university with additional needs here in the UK. So that's my background. Today's presentation is going to be looking at Lernabl, the revision study tool that we described in the introduction to this. I have a few slides just to kind of set the scene, let you know what it's about, but I do like to kind of explore softwares together with everyone in the audience. So the majority of the session will be a live demonstration of the software, which is always exciting because you never know what quite might happen, but hopefully we'll be okay. There is some links going into the chat. Lernabl was created by a company called the Pro AT Group. So there's links to our socials and other assets there in the chat. As I said, any questions, please put them forward, and Aaron will put them to me at the end of the session. It's 7 a.m. here, so it's good afternoon to you guys. Good morning to me. Let's see how I function. I tend to be more of a post lunchtime as my kind of best working time of day, but I think we'll be okay. We'll go through that. So without further ado, we'll get into this presentation now, so I can show you and speak to you all about Lernabl. Okay. Oops, my right irism's not been moving the slides. There we go. So what is Lernabl? So Lernabl is a tool that has been created to help for the kind of entire revision study process, which was basically developed to create more personalized and diverse study methods in preparation for exams. So one thing we definitely notice in the UK is when it comes to preparing and revising and studying for exams, students don't get a whole lot of support. This again can be in like finishing kind of standard school education, kind of 15 to 18 brackets, and obviously in university as well. A student starts school or a qualification. Let's use university for our example today. The part of their course is assessed through an examination. That could be one of the modules that they're studying. They are taught aspects of the course as the semester goes on, and then that part of the course is assessed through an exam. How does the student kind of prepare for that? Obviously, they'll have lectures and seminars to go to where they can take notes. But then they are then kind of tasked with the individual task of preparing for that exam. Is that going back and rereading the notes that you took from class? Is it perhaps developing something like flashcards to help remember key points? Are you lucky enough for your tutor to put on a revision study session lead to that exam that perhaps will review things? That's not always the case. And we found that students, can have difficulties preparing for that. So what we wanted to do was create something that can allow you to prepare in various different methods. And that is what Lernabl does. Lernabl has a whole suite of engaging proven revision methods. So currently there is 10 revision methods in there. I might refer to them as games from time to time, but gamification of study material is always a great thing for trying to increase engagement. We will be looking at a couple of those today. We're not going to look at every single one, but I will show you how the system works. Lernabl is a web app-based application, so we're always developing new methods to add in. And with the way that it's created being web app based, we can add those in very easily. And anyone who's currently in possession of a license will get upgrades, free of charge. One thing to note about Lernabl is it's designed to be a year-round study aid and not just a cramming tool. Cramming is obviously one of those parts of studying that does tend to happen. It can be a little bit unavoidable. And yes, it probably will get utilized if a student does start kind of cramming towards the end. But the way we've created this program is more to base of scaffold approach to learning where we continuously engage with the software, adding new material as the course progresses. These things kind of align with space repetition and retrieval practice, which are key effective ways of learning in the way that we add material and then engage with Lernabl itself. So that's kind of what Lernabl is. In terms of who it can help, perhaps for those with additional needs who need extra support. ADHD is certainly where we kind of had ideas of creating this product for to begin with. Being able to study in a multiple of different methods definitely caters to those with shorter attention spans and a need for something that's more engaging. If we have more variety, we've got more engagement, which will hopefully then process into knowledge of what we got there. Students with ADHD, if you kind of told them the task of what we mentioned before, some traditional revision methods, go back, reread your notes, rewrite them up. How long they could stay on that task for remains to be seen. But if you have some gamification elements to your study material, then hopefully that is going to increase your engagement. I always think a couple of points to take back from seeing this program today is the main things that we want to do for students using Lernabl is to increase engagement with their study material and build confidence with their knowledge so they feel like they are prepared for when their exam takes place. So if we can do one or both of those things, we're going the right way. Students with dyslexia and dyspraxia as well. Lernabl has a multisensory learning approach with the methods that are built in there. So there are different methods that kind of focus on whatever kind of task you might be able to do. You can tell Lernabl what areas you want to work on that day, and then it will filter out which methods are best for that area that you want to work on, whether that's kind of comprehension of your text or memory retention, which again can kind of offer more personalized study sessions. As well as the study methods that are built into Lernabl, we also have a mock exam kind of test feature, which allows you to create a short kind of quiz, which again, you can further kind of test your knowledge there as well. Forgive me, I've got a slight cold at the moment. Students with visual impairments can also take advantage of certain methods that are built into Lernabl. We have text-to-speech functionality built around the software. But we also have certain methods, such as the record audio feature, which you can read notes and save them in that feature and play them back. We also have text-to-speech, where you can upload notes and play them back into there as well. Again, kind of great methods for memorization and recall. Students with ASC could definitely benefit from using a program like Lernabl. What this program offers is a more structured approach to your revision and with routine and predictability. Every study method that we have in the system has clear instructions of how to use it, and which is set up in the same way. You can have that played back or you can read that yourself, depending on what you prefer. It also tells you why engaging with that method is going to help you as well, which again will be beneficial so you have a purpose for engaging with that study method. So the step-by-step guides are very helpful and make the program easy to pick up in terms of learning a new piece of software. Also, they kind of make the process less overwhelming as well. There is also another added feature to Lernabl, which is the study planner, which is another layer of support. And this allows us to bring in our academic diary. We can then tell Lernabl when we work best, and then it can plan out a study schedule in the lead up for that exam, which you can then bring into you can export out and you'll get notifications of when to engage with the software as well. So great for those who kind of need a bit more structured approach to the revision process. And finally, mental health conditions as well. I've bolded the word stress and anxiety there, just because if you play word association game with the words exam, I'm sure those two words wouldn't be too far behind. Um, what we have found in the UK is exams, or the way of assessing elements of courses by way of exam, is increasing with things like AI and ChatGPT that's offering so much assistance when it comes to writing essays, which is again another formal way of assessing a student on a course. Tutors and universities are looking to put students back in exams in more controlled environments, as a way of assessing for their course. So that doesn't always go to everybody's skill sets. So especially if you do have a lot of stress and anxieties about an examination assessment. So again, we do have another area which is a well-being and tips area to give advice and how best to prepare for your exams. And as I mentioned before, the two things I want the program to do are to increase engagement and build confidence. And if you do engage with the software, with your study material, you're going to build confidence in your knowledge, and you will feel more prepared because you know that you have processed what you've learned, and hopefully you will then bring that to the table when the exam starts. So yes, that's our aims with this software. We'd be glad to know there's no more slides for me. I'm going straight into the software to show you how it all works. So let's get ourselves here. As I mentioned before, Lernabl is a web app-based application. Students have their own Lernabl accounts that they log in, and that allows us to use this on PCs, Macs, Chromebooks. You can use it on a tablet as well. It's not utilized for mobile phones, just so you know, and that's just currently that there may be plans to bring that to the front in the future. So I'm going to show you kind of how a student would set up and start adding their material and then engaging with their material with this demonstration. So this is the Lernabl homepage that we are currently on. We have a whole bunch of menu buttons on the left-hand side. I'm going to click the Add Exam Resources button that's at the top there. And this is where you first tell Lernabl when you've got an exam, and is where you can start adding your study material. Because the important thing about Lernabl is you need to engage with it constantly to feed the material that you've been learning. So we'll click Add Exam Resource, and then we'll have a look at these different elements of the software that we're going to fill in. Around the software in various places, you will find the I button next to headings on there, which you can click for adding instructions and tips. We also do have access to the user guide on the top menu bar in the middle with the question logo there. So my example I'm going to use is a student doing a nursing degree, and they've got a human anatomy module that they're going to have an exam on. So let's say they're doing adult nursing. And then I've put like the module code. Forgive me, I'm a terrible typer when it comes to talking and typing at the same time. Adult nursing module 253, human anatomy. Okay. Again, you can put your location there. I will go for, we're talking to you guys in Australia today, so I'll put Australia. Bit of a wide example location, but again, we can fill these in, we can put the time and date in. These can be changed if the location or building changes for the exam, or the date and time of when the exam is going to take place changes as well. Let's say it's going to be, let's have it on Halloween, and currently it's based on my time. As you can see, it's 7:20 here, but we'll put a very mean exam time of 7:30 in the morning, and we can put the exact length that exam is going to be as well. So once you've set those parameters out, We then move down to the topic card. So this is where you tell Learnable what you've been learning. Um, um, and in itself is kind of a study session. It gives the student time to reflect on what they did that week, what notes they took, and we can add in various places. So in our human anatomy module that we did, the first week we learned all about the heart. So that is going to be my topic card name. Then we have some various spaces to add information in. So we have a space for key terms and definitions. So any new words or words we need to learn, we can put into there. We have space for our study notes, so the notes that we took in class. We have an images space for any diagrams that we might find useful that need to use. And we can even add web links where we've perhaps done some reading after class as well. And you can rate your topic cards as well of how you're feeling about the completion and how confident you are with them. So, as I said, this is a kind of something to do post class, maybe a couple of days after or whatever the time is right for the student. So it's a time to kind of bring and retrieve the notes that you took from class that week. So you might be using another piece of assistive technology at this time. You guys might be familiar with software formerly called Glean. I think it's now called Genio, which is an electron note take and record software. We've worked with them in the past with collaborative webinars utilizing both. You might not perhaps be aware of another recording software called Ivy Notes, which is a recording, capturing, and mind mapping software too. Or the students might not have any assistive technology, and they might be making notes very traditionally on something like a Word document as well. But this is a simple task of kind of finding what they took and inputting it into the system. So I have a definition of the heart here that I can add in. My study notes themselves, this is a great time to reflect, to see what I took that week, maybe be more concise and take bits out that I don't need. Or if I struggled, it's a time to kind of go off and add more material in. Obviously, I am copying, pasting just for our example today. You can type in there. You could use other assistive technology programs like Dragon, for instance, to dictate straight into there if you wanted to add your notes that way. It works in there perfectly fine. We also have used this in the past with things like the scan marker pen, where we've had a student with a textbook. They're going through their notes or notes of the book, scanning and directly having those notes inputted into the study notes section. So, a few ways of inputting material in there. As I said, for notes, we can add images in. We'll click on that and find some images in. You can add images in multiples at a time as well. We can open those in, and they look like thumbnails to begin with, but you can open them up and see them much larger if you need to. Once you've created your topic card, you can then add another topic card. Perhaps if it was the lecture changed slightly and you feel like it should be broken into two, if it's a slightly different topic, or if you're kind of coming next week to add the next lot of material that you've learnt in. For this topic card, I'm going to call the brain, and I'm going to show you a couple of other features to the software that we didn't mention before. So we do have some buttons below the key terms and study notes called auto-generate. So if the student is struggling to add content in, they can use the auto-generate button, which uses AI to bring you 5, 10, 15 key terms based on what your exam title is called and what your topic is called as well. So it knows that I'm doing a human anatomy module, and it knows that this topic is called the brain, and hence why this time it's given me kind of parts of the brain there of all those different bits of language we have. It does have a boost in the study notes section as well. We've only kept this very short to kind of 50 or 100 word summary. We don't want AI taking the full notes because the AI isn't the lecturer setting the course. But say, for instance, a student really struggled to take any notes in class that day or perhaps didn't attend at all, this might give them a little bit of a starter for 10 where they can go and go do some reading and add some study material from what's been added onto there. So we kind of have three main ways of inputting. We can input our study notes ourselves. We can use the auto-generate to help us. But you'll also see at the top, if I move my mouse to the top right-hand side of the screen, there are two buttons here which say you can access sample exam resources. So we are in the process of adding pre-made topic cards on certain topics in there, which is probably more for high school-based education as opposed to university at the moment. But we do also have the import exam resources shared by your teacher or institution as well. So these topic cards themselves can be exported, created, and saved and shared with other Lernabl users. So if a institution was to have a site license, for example, a tutor or a school, for example, a tutor or teacher can create topic cards with information already in, share those with other Lernabl users, and then they can be imported in as well. So we have various methods of adding in the content. So once you're done, you just press the save button, which is in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. It does then ask you if you want to perhaps go back and add more contents, but then on the right-hand side, you can click save anyway, and that will then take you to your exam section. Because the topic cards creation bit is quite blank in terms of the content you add in, it doesn't necessarily matter based on what your subject is, because you're putting the content in, or your educational level. So it gives kind of scope for Lernabl to be used for many different topics, and anything from kind of high school, education, college, university, even a workplace qualification if you were doing something that was exam-based as well. So, and that's why I've got lots of different exams already in here, whether it's kind of geography with rivers of the world, the D-Day landings, zoology. I've even got my Spanish in there as well. This is my exam section, which if I press the home button in the middle of the screen there, it's the second menu button down. And this is where you'll go when you want to keep adding to your topic cards. So you'll go to my exams, Lernabl will load them up, and then the right-hand side, you can then view your topic cards to then add more cards if you want, but then that's also where you can share the files where people can import them in as well. And they use that button that's on the top right-hand side that says import exam resources if they've been shared a file. Okay, so that is how we feed Lernabl. And obviously that is a very important part of the software, because the more you put into it, the more it can extract and get out with the methods that it has. So we're going to look at engaging with the methods now. And you can, on the screen, we've got three, 1, 2, 3 going down the middle of our options. So the first thing is to choose the exam that you want to do some revision on. You select that from all your exams that you currently have. You then have an optional menu below, which is what you would like to focus on. So this is where it tailors the methods for you. If I have none selected, you'll have the third option, which is to choose your study method. And you can use the left and right arrow buttons there to cycle through. So currently there is 10 in there. We have flashcards, we have a mnemonic that you can create, and you can use AI to assist you with that. Read, recover, retell, check, concentration, recording audio, read a minute, bullet a minute, funneling, which is a summary tool of where you have to kind of start with text and work on your summary skills to fit it into a smaller and smaller box. We have Cornell notes, we have fill in the blanks, we have text to speech, and finally we have create a meme, which might seem amusing, but after getting some feedback recently, it's one of the most popular things that the students do. I guess it's a good visual cue to remember something that you want to, and you can share with your friends. That was just me running through them very quickly. As I said, we're not going to look at every single study method at the moment, but what I'm going to do is go back up to menu 2, which is telling it what I'd like to focus on, and I would like to focus on comprehension. And then that will then show me which study methods work best for that task. So we can see here, this method here called fill in the blanks is giving us one of the options. So once you've kind of done your 1, 2, 3, you click on study method you'd like to engage with, and then that will load up that particular method. So the way Lernabl lays itself out is It has the title of the method at the top. You can also switch between what exam you want to study from and what topic card you want to work on at the time. But next to the title, there will be an I button. And when clicking this, it will then bring out a pop-out menu that explains what this study method is. You can read this yourself, or there is a read aloud button for it to play back, so you can listen to that if you would like, which is certainly helpful for those who suffer from reading fatigue, maybe with dyslexia and things of that nature. So now we have how to use the fill in the blanks topic. We also have how this can help me. So engaging with fill in the blanks is going to help with self-assessments because it's giving us a chance to read our notes. It hopefully works with text comprehension. It's motivating me to read my notes because we've got an element of gamification there because we've taken out the words and we're going to have to make a decision of what's been taken away. And hopefully that's going to help with memory retention as well. So this has a hard and easy mode on it. You can then hit the slider to give you a choice of 5 words as opposed to trying to guess which one it is without that. So starting off, this might be an easier way of engaging with your notes. So I start reading. The anatomy of the skin is a complex something that involves understanding the 3 main layers of the skin. I've got options of cushioning, sublayers, hypodermis, fat or topic. I think topic fits in there nicely. The epidermis, the dermis, and the something. So I think that might be hypodermis. As I read through. The epidermis is the outermost layer and is made up of several something. Maybe sublayers. Let's go on to that. Okay. And obviously the student will take their time, read, and make the decision of what they want to put in. I'm not going to read the last 2. Hopefully I get them. Well, so hopefully I get them wrong. If I get them wrong, I will get them wrong. And that will serve me right for not reading the full topic. Fat, I've not done that one. So once you've added in and read the text, you can reveal. And you can see, there we go, because I didn't actually read properly towards the end there. I've actually got 2 wrong. But you can reveal the hidden words and you can see which ones you got right and which ones you got wrong. So obviously what we're doing there is we are rereading our notes, but we've got an element of gamification there to kind of motivate us to read them. If we really like this particular method, I can hit refresh, change the hidden words. So I can hit refresh there, and you can see it now gives me other options in the text. I can quickly switch to another topic card, and it will load up the notes from that topic card. I can even switch to a completely different exam if I want to. And load the notes that way if I desire. As I mentioned at the beginning, I want to increase engagement for the students. So we want the students to engage with their study material as long as possible. That way we're not having to move in and out of things. If a student really likes this method, they can stay in there for as long as they can. And hopefully that's going to kind of increase engagement with their study material. After I've finished with that particular method, I can then press the home button on the top menu of the screen. And I can go back and I'll go at another method if I'd like to. So I'm going to choose something else now and have another go. Let's go to a different exam, our Rivers of the World one. And let's say I want to look at memory retention, for example. You can click multiple focus areas to then offer suggested methods. If you want to learn more about the focus areas, on the left-hand side menu, the second one from the bottom is the focus area button, and that will have a write-up about like what these areas are and how they are going to help you. And again, I can cycle through and I can pick a different study method. And just to show the kind of variety that is in here, we have now one called concentration game. So I'm going to have a look at the water cycle for this one. So again, if I am using a method and I'm unsure how to use it, it has the title, it has the I next to it, it has the instructions of how it's done, also telling me how this is going to help. And this can also be read aloud if you want it to as well. This one offers the ability to set a timer as well. This is essentially works from the key terms and definitions that you've used there. So maybe I want to try and get this completed in 2 minutes. This was quite a visual game before. We were reading heavy text before, which is fine. But for those who perhaps want something a bit more visual, it kind of shows you the scope of the methods that are available. If I click start, I flip a card over, I have a key term, runoff. So as I say, we're on geography now. I bet you didn't think you were going to be learning about anatomy and geography in today's session, but here we go. Runoff is kind of water that's fallen down and is making its way to the river. We flip over. If you get them wrong, they will flip back over. So that one there, the process in which water seeps in the ground becomes groundwater. That sounds like runoff, but that's infiltration. And there we go. I got very lucky that time. I've actually flipped that one over. But once you've got them right, they will stay over like that. The process in which water vapor cools and changes back into liquid, forming clouds. Water cooling. So that kind of sounds like condensation, potentially. Not evaporation. I'll flip it over. The process of water and liquid water vapor when heated. Now that sounds more like evaporation. So again, I'm matching everything. Any form of water that falls from the atmosphere, snow, sleet, hail. Okay, what might that be? Oh God, I've never done so well at this. I'm usually terrible and keep flipping them over and not running out of time. But we're doing quite well today. One thing I will say though, you can hear me kind of explaining the options, is because I've used this one quite a few times, and it actually surprised myself that I've got my key terms and definitions memorized in my head from engaging with this method. So I was quite surprised that it does work. Condensation, there we go. And our last one, the movements of water over land usually result from precipitation. That was the first one I flipped over, which was runoff. And there we go. I did it with 17 seconds to spare, so that's nice. So just another button to point out. You'll see in the bottom right-hand side, there's something here that says save. Now, various methods in the built into Lernabl might have this save button on there. If you do press that, it saves that completed task. And the reason for that is if we click the home button at the top of the screen and we go over to that left-hand side menu, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 options down is the save sessions section. And in here, it will load up the exam at the top, but you can then click on the drop-down menu from there to switch to another exam. And it will show you which save sessions that you've completed for a particular exam. So you can see here for my Rivers of the World exam, I've had a go with funneling. I've created a meme, and I've engaged with a concentration game, and I've even created a mnemonic as well. These have checkboxes on them, and what you can do is create an offline study resource for that particular exam. So if you want something that you'd like to print out or just away from engaging in the software, it will create a Word document with these on. So you check the sessions that you would like, and we kind of add one from each one if you like, and then create study resource. And then that's downloaded as a document now, which I can open. Give me that's opened up on my other monitor. I'll bring that over. Come on. So here is your revision pool. I'm not quite sure why it looks like that. It doesn't normally. My Word's been playing up recently. There we go. That's better. So you get the title of what your exam is, Rivers of the World, the topics, which we have utilized some of those saved sessions. So there we go. We've got our matched keywords and definitions. We've got the funneling system where I've got some notes and I've summarized again. A mnemonic that I've created. Apologies for saying that out loud. And there's my meme that I also created as well. So I've got that kind of offline resource there. So the save sessions is a handy element to the software. I will click home again. We're going to explore some more areas of the software now. Obviously, I've shown you 2 methods, but there are obviously 10 to engage with. We do have the study wellbeing and tips area. So again, for those who want any help and advice in preparing for exams, it has various menu options on the side. The environment of where it's best to study, food and drink. You can click into these and learn about those. You can read it yourself. You can download it onto a document if you want to use any other available offline, use any other assistive technology with that. If you're using other like websites, reading or screen readers, you should be fine within here. But we do also have our own read aloud button as well, which will read it aloud. So that's our study wellbeing and tips area. We also talked about time management, and that's where the study planner can come to help. So what we have here when we access the study planner from the menu on the left-hand side before is our study planner, currently blank, but we have some buttons on the left-hand side that we can use to import some information. So we can import our calendars. So we can go to our Google or our Outlook or our iCal, go into settings there and export that calendar file, particularly if it has our academic schedule on. That will load into Lernabl. If you don't have it in that form, you can add commitments in. This is a bit of a longer process if you don't have an online calendar, but you can still utilize this if you wanted to. So I play squash on Thursdays. So I will put that as my title. The event date is today's date. I play it that weekly, so I'll put that in. And I'll say I'm going to play that for the rest of the summer, so I'll put that in for a couple of months or so. And I play from, let's say it's 11 a.m. till 12, and then hit save. Once you've added those into the calendar, so you can put commitments in that way if you want to. But as I said, importing an iCal file is probably the most common way this is utilized. Once you have done either importing your calendar or adding your commitments in, you can tell Lernabl that you want to create a study plan. So you click the second from the bottom menu button there. You choose your exam. Let's say it's our Rivers of the World one again, for example. You can then choose which topics you want the study sessions to be on. So if you are more confident in one, you can leave it out. Once you've added those in, you click Create My Study Planner. It will then know when that exam is. So it's now got some preferences, and this is where it tailors the study session to when we want to work. So it has today's date when the first session may come in, and it knows that this exam is scheduled for the 9th of February 2026. We can tell it when we'd like to work. So maybe we're kind of a middle of the morning person. So I like it between the hours of 9 and let's say 11:59 there. And maybe I have less classes on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So those are the days I would like the study sessions to be on. I feel focused in the morning, in the afternoon, but maybe I've got ADHD. So the next menu there is asking me how long I want the sessions to be. 20 minutes is probably as long as I can focus for. So once you put all those preferences in, you click Update Study Planner. It then populates the calendar with those study sessions, and it won't conflict with anything else that you've added into the calendar, particularly if you've imported your own iCal file. Because now, if I click Export Calendar, it will turn it back into an iCal file with the new events on. So you can go back to your Google Calendar, your Outlook Calendar, your iCal, iPhone, and then you can import that calendar in, and then you'll get your notifications on your phone when to engage with Lernabl. So particularly good for those who need that time management aspect to preparing and for revising. The final element of the program I want to show you is the mock exam feature. So after you've engaged with the software, you've had a go with the methods, and you're feeling like you perhaps want to give yourself a little bit more of a test, then the mock exam feature allows you to create a quick kind of quiz-like test. So again, you've got your exam at the top there, but you can use a drop-down arrow to switch between those, and you can choose the topics you want the questions on. You can choose the type of questions you'd like. So it'll do the mock exam in the form of multiple choice, true or false, or fill in the blank style questions. You can set how long the test is going to be, how many questions you'd like to do. And then you can also choose your educational level as well, A-level, university, and school on there. And once you're ready, you hit go, and then it develops the test for you. But you will see below, it also shows you previous mock tests that you've created. So you can also retake ones that you've done previously. So I've got one here that I did on the 3rd of July. I only got 2 out of 5. Let's see if I want to retake that one, see if I can do better. But you can also create new ones as well. So once you hit retake, or if you hit create, it will then start the test. Your timer goes off at the top. Your question is there. You also have on the right-hand side the topic of which that question is based on, which is parts of the river. I can then click and then go on to click on the options that we have and then hit next question on the bottom right-hand side. There's also some other options at the bottom to leave the exam or restart the exam. So I can hit on the right-hand side, next question. I'm going to go through this very quickly and not read the answers, just to show you why you should always spend time reading the questions and making informed decisions. Next. I'll hit next again. You can submit the exam whenever you're ready. This one's just 5 questions. So I will now hit submit. And then you can see once you've completed the exam, it will then tell you your score, 2 out of 5. Not great there, but that's probably because I didn't read the questions properly. I didn't utilize the time I had available. I had 15 minutes. I only used 55 seconds. I got 40%. I've got my start and end time. But what you can do is go to the breakdown and you can see which questions you got right and which ones you got wrong. So question 2 I got wrong. That was the water cycle, but I can see what the answer was. Question 3 I got wrong. That was also the water cycle. So maybe what I need to do is go back, go for that topic and do some more revision within the software as well. So at least I've got that kind of feedback from doing that. And that essentially is Learnable. Just to summarize, it is a revision study program that's web app based, allows students to feed their study material and engage in various study methods to help prepare for their exams. In terms of licensing, we do individual licenses. We a 1-year license starts. Forgive me, my Zoom bar is in the way. I did some conversions to Australian dollars. A 1-year license starts from $155, and we do course long licenses for entire course duration. We do site licenses for institutions. We also do loan licenses as well, which is where you can buy a batch of starting at 5 licenses as an institution. You can then allocate those to students. You can then deallocate it and give it to somebody else, and you have full control over that with the management system too. And we have other flexible options as well. So thank you very much for listening to me. I think there was a couple of questions dotted around the place, so we'll address those now.
There are indeed a few questions. Thank you, Sam, for that presentation, for going through Learnable. One of the first questions hits on something you were just talking about there at the end, and that's with licensing. And Martin was asking, if the university has a license, maybe one of those batch licenses that are there that you're saying you can swap some students in and out of. Are students able to sign up with their university credentials, as happens with some other programs, or how is that so they can use their one email rather than multiples?
Yeah, so if they're doing site licenses, we can base that on creating on their student email address. Also, we do have the ability to sign up with your kind of social accounts in the sense of like your Gmail or your Windows account as well. Once you sign up, which makes kind of registering a bit easier too. So there's multiple ways of that for creating your accounts there.
Okay, but through the site license, you can certainly do.
Yes, through the site license, we could have that with their kind of and then their institution.
Beautiful. There's a question from Nissa here. Is this something students can use and create their own study materials without having a teacher training, having to pre-set it up? And this is for cases where a school or training institute's not currently using Learnable, but the student wants to use it to improve their study results. Which kind of probably leads me into it, and to expand on that a little bit. The question I've got with students getting information on how to use this. So you've got training resources, you've got some videos and that for students to go through to learn all the parts of this and how this all operates and how to set it up.
Yes. So to start at the beginning of that question, is this something students can use to create their own study materials without having teacher training, have to pre-set it up? Yes, 100%. When they add their exam resources in those plain boxes at the beginning, we can create our own topic cards ourselves. And that's probably the majority of the way that this program is utilized. It does have the added option of, which I've mentioned before, preloaded topic cards, which you can load in. So you've got both ways of doing that. In terms of training and school, in learning how to use the software. There are the various eye icons around that kind of provide information of what's happening and how to engage with that particular part of the software. But we do also have quick access to the user guide at the top of the menu. And then we also have videos on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And we're actually developing, I think there's a few already up already, but I think it's either in the next kind of 6 weeks, they should all be on there, which have like individual study method videos of how to even use that particular method as well as being able to read. You can see that visually with our YouTube channel. A training session would always be recommended, I think, to get things started. And we're on various e-learning solution platforms as well that are based around assistive technology.
Excellent, thank you. And Dallas, I think it was hi Sam. I just got I am when he transferred this across. Hi Sam. We have students who are able to negotiate memory prompt sheets in exams due to the impact on their conditions. The student needs to submit a sheet to their academics prior to the exam. Has Lernabl the capacity to generate a memory prompt sheet? I know that you had the exporting there where you could export, they'll create that study plan, study, is that what it was called?
Yes, the save session
Resources, yes.
study resource, yes. That probably would be one of the perfect thing for that if they've got kind of two A4 sheets going on there. I think the one that we made, oh god, that says it's 8 pages, but you could condense it down because a few of them are on there essentially. So a lot of the methods that we've engaged with do export onto a sheet like that. So with perhaps a little bit of editing and changing the font sizes and that, we could probably get that down to 2 sheets.
Yep, and of course approval from the academic that it's not just full of answers for things, but yeah, their prompts and their, the mnemonics and things I think that you had in there were great, ways for prompting. I think so, some of that
Yes.
recall, etc. That's there. Dallas says thanks. I've got a couple of quick questions as well. Certainly around accessibility, being that this is web-based and across multiple platforms. How does this work in the accessibility? I see there's an accessibility button right the center of the main menu there, but also with screen readers and some other assistive technologies.
Yeah, so we do have a few accessibility sessions built in, mainly kind of coloring options. There is a dark mode which you can use as well, and you can change what fonts are displayed around the software, and it will then access whatever voices you have installed on your system there, or the Google ones, with me being in the Google browser for playing out. In terms of screen reader compatibility, because it is browser based, so if the screen reader works with using within Google Chrome, it should be fine with reading menu options and things around that as well. For those mouse-based, you can tab around the menu options as well to then have them read out too.
Okay, excellent, thank you. I just had another question. This has skipped straight out of my head. I think importing. Yes, the auto generating. And this is from students putting notes in. Is there the ability, or two questions, one around the AI, the generate with AI, that's generating and pulling the notes from the web, I'm assuming, or pulling its information from the web.
Yeah.
Is there any concern, I suppose, around the accuracy of that information and the level of that information that it's pulling? And also with that, can you import, say, like transcripts of a lecture or transcripts of a session in there as the material that it's using?
So, yeah, there are certain parameters that are built into the AI to try and make sources as viable as possible, but I can't remember at the top of my head of what they are. I will get back to an answer with that, so you can circulate that if you like. But what it does mainly use in sense is the topic card's name and the exam name to kind of generate those pieces. You talked about kind of importing transcripts and stuff into there. There isn't a like word count and such in the study notes bit, so if your transcript is a whole bunch of words there, you can copy and paste those in. We are developing some more ways of importing study material as well in the future. I'm not sure how far down the line it is, but people will be able to import slides and for it to extract material from slides into the topic cards as well and other documents, like an article or chapters of a textbook as well. So that is where we do get quite a few questions about the variety of inputting material. At the moment is obviously quite text-based, but we are developing those as we speak.
Yep. And I suppose along with that, sorry, and I'm conscious of the time as well, so please bear with me. The ability probably for that practice exam is the ability to model that up on an existing exam, because different units of study might have different formats and standards for those exams. So as a way to similar, to import or to build an exam that's going to be familiar to them when they go and do that, rather than the one that it generates from your notes, etc. In there.
Yeah, no, I am. I understand the question. At the moment, it is kind of more as bases are more of a kind of quiz-based thing to kind of test the knowledge. But there has been queries over that in the past to maybe kind of tailor more than that. So that may be something we look into in the future. But currently, as it stands, it is kind of set the parameters with those question types of multiple choice, fill in the blanks, or something else that was on there. But that it is as we've seen as at the moment. But maybe we do. The good thing we do with this software is we're always based on feedback from other AT users and people in the field to add features. So if you do have any ideas that you think could work, then we're very receptive to those.
Fantastic. All right, look, we're and it's almost 5 o'clock, and I know some people want to run away here in Australia that maybe here on the East Coast. But I might wrap up there and just say thank you very much, Sam, for the session today, and also thank you out to our captioner Sharon for the live captions today. Very much appreciated. An
Thanks for
email
having me
will
on,
be
Darren.
no
Sorry.
problem. That's all right. Go ahead, Sam.
No, it was. Thank you very much for having me, and again, thanks to everybody at ADCET for all the hard work in organising this as
And thank
well.
you for being up so
Yes, I
early.
didn't realise I had such a cold. At least thanking me. My nose just decided to go on a full. I won't go into too many details about that, but yes, I was a bit sniffly during that session, so apologies for that.
It is early in the morning. You're very much forgiven, but thank you, Sam, for the presentation and getting up early for this. Just to let everybody know, an email will be sent out when the recording of this webinar is available on the ADCET website, and please feel free to share that with your colleagues. We'll also provide a link into chat for a short survey on this webinar, and an ability to sign up to the ADCET newsletter if you're not already subscribed. And these links will be added to the chat box. Please save the date for an upcoming webinar as well, which is myth busting accessibility in the Australian tertiary education, which is coming up later this month. Further details on that are in the chat box as well. But with that being said, we're going to give you back 2 minutes of your day, according to my clock. But thank you, everybody, for joining us for this session today. Thanks again to Sam and to Sharon and the rest of the ADCET crew for putting this on. Please enjoy the rest of your day and go well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.